Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ebbenflow podcast. My name is Ben, and this is episode 16. In this episode, we're going to be talking about mind control. And I know that may seem like a buzzword title, like, ooh, mind control. Like, what is this, some superhero discussion, superpower discussion that we're going to talk about? I couldn't think of another way to put it other than, another possible title could be societal programming or like basically programming of the media. If you ever heard the song, you probably haven't, but it's called Control the Media by Anti Up. I would listen to that if you're into weird house music. But mind control in the sense that I've been seeing patterns in consciousness over the last 4 years or so. It's probably been going on for longer though. But it's basically like how the media portrays events that are happening in the world as like events that are important and events that you should pay attention to, and basically just bring your attention away from things that you actually like to do and put it towards things that you think are interesting to you. So let's dig into this, because I don't really have my thoughts fully fleshed out yet about this stuff, but let's use a very current example, and the example that inspired me to start this podcast. So the example I'm using is the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. So that happened a week ago today, last Saturday, of the time of this recording, and it was pretty crazy, honestly. I've never been alive for a assassination attempt on a president before, and it was funny, like when I heard about it, I was at my friend's house at his birthday party, and we're not this group of people. It's not the kind of people that would, once someone saw the news on their phone, they'd be like, all right, everyone, stop the party, let's turn on the news and let's watch this. It wasn't at that level. It was much more casual. It was like, oh wow, there was a shooting at a rally today, and someone got shot, and we were like, no way. So we all went on our phone and looked at the news, and it was like, President Trump's been shot at, but he's like fine. So then we were like, oh shit, that's crazy. Anyways, beer pong. Even though I don't drink, but that was like the general vibe and response of the group that I was in when I heard the news. So then I went about that party. It not really at the forefront of my mind, because I was present at the party and socializing and being myself there. But then when the party started winding down, maybe around 2 a.m. and people were starting to go to bed, I started thinking like, okay, well this is actually pretty interesting stuff, because I've just never seen this kind of event before. So before I went to sleep that night, I went on my phone, I opened up Twitter, and I follow Alex Jones. I've been following Alex Jones since he was on Joe Rogan's show many years ago. The first episode I saw was him and Eddie Bravo, and in that episode he just goes off on all of these conspiracy theories that seem outrageous, and I kind of forget what a lot of them were, but like outrageous as in like Sandy Hook shooting was faked, and like it stuff like that like interests me, and I'm not close-minded to anything. Like I'm pretty willing to hear what anyone has to say, because I know that anything's possible. So I got interested in Alex, but I never really like kept up with what he was saying. He'd always talk about conspiracy theories and just interesting stuff, to anyone who's open-minded enough to listen to him. So I thought, ooh, Alex probably has a good take on, like, an interesting take on the assassination attempt. And I opened up a video from him, and he was basically saying, he's been saying there was going to be an assassination attempt for like almost a year, like saying it over and over again on his show, even though I haven't been following it. But then he started posting clips from like last year and earlier this year saying like they're going to try to kill Trump. And who's they, right? The they is what Alex refers to as the globalists, or like the new world order, or the deep state. And like the deep state is like, so you have our people in government, the people that the public faces of our government, but then you have the people that are controlling the public faces, as in like people like President Biden, or pretty much anyone who's known to the public is just like a puppet, and they're being controlled by like a deep secret government that no one knows who they are, but it's likely people in like the BlackRock Corporation, where they own like all of the central banks. And like if you ever heard of like the Rothschilds, like Jacob Rothschild and that family, like I believe they funded both sides of the Napoleonic Wars. I could be completely wrong about that, but they funded both sides of one war. So you have people like that, with that kind of like power, playing God pretty much, and turning war into business. But so he was saying the globalists have now attempted the assassination. Basically, the whole assassination attempt was an inside job, because the shooter was on the roof for 26 minutes while the Secret Service did nothing. The Secret Service, I did a really deep dive into this. The Secret Service like has to cover every roof within a half mile of like a president. But to not have any of that is just like it had to be that one 20-year-old kid had to have help from an inside government organization. So he was saying the globalists are desperate. They didn't get Trump, so the next thing they're gonna do, he started going off all of the next things they're gonna do. They're gonna try to poison him. They're gonna try to truck bomb his RNC convention in Milwaukee. They're gonna do truck bombs at black churches. They're gonna do massive shootings at black schools. They're gonna do cyber attacks, power outages. Basically, and the cyber attack thing, he was saying all week, and then on Friday, yesterday, was one of the largest cyber outages like in history, with the whole CrowdStrike thing, where like businesses and airline companies all got blue screens of death. And so he's saying like the globalists want to try to cause chaos, and then use that chaos to establish martial law, and then just basically be under control of everyone forever. That's pretty much their goal. And I got very sucked into this. I was watching Alex say things all week. I was watching all of the videos on the assassination attempt, like, and then I was just like following all the media stories on X Twitter, and like at the Republican National Convention, like I watched Trump's speech, and in my mind I'm thinking, I'm starting to like build like a narrative. I'm like buying into Alex's story of like the globalists, like, oh shit, he was right about the cyber attacks. Like, what else is he going to be right about? I'm going to keep watching Alex. And not only by watching Alex am I expressing my attention towards this narrative of the globalist taking over the world pretty much, and really drawing my attention away from things that I found to be fulfilling, like my business, my podcast, making music. I mean, even at work, I was watching the videos, like, and I'm just like, holy shit. On Friday, yesterday, it kind of just like hit me like, holy shit, very invested in this narrative. And it's because of all of the media that I've been consuming over the past week. And so that made me think like, wait, if my attention's being taken away from making music, doing my business, my podcast, and I'm investing it into like this narrative of the globalist narrative that Alex Jones has been spreading, then that's like the same effect that watching the mainstream media has on a large percentage of the population, where they are so invested into the stories of politics, the story, it could be anything, the story of like a reality show, which is sometimes what politics seem like, because of just how ridiculous things are now. But it's like the media is sensationalizing events in order for you to get their viewership up, and just they want as much as your attention as they can, because they make money off of that stuff. And it's like the same thing with social media. It's just all an attention grab. And something that helped me like realize that I was just investing into a story was a post from Solbra, and he was in his post, he was like, what are you paying attention to? In these times, it's very tumultuous times. There's a lot of crazy, chaotic shit happening. And are you going to let those events dictate your attention? Or are you going to focus on things that actually bring you fulfillment in life? And it just made me stop in my tracks and be like, holy shit, maybe I've been investing too much into this. Maybe I should stop watching Alex's videos. And just stop following this globalist story. Like, stop watching videos about the assassination attempt. Stop watching videos about cyber attack. It's all very crazy, but it's like, does it really deserve this much of my attention? Or should I be putting my attention towards other things? Like, and I know there is no should, because again, we have as awareness tendencies to buy into stories because stories are very interesting. But I guess it's how seriously invested are you in those stories? it could be so much so that it's taking your attention away from things that actually matter in your life. And after my realization yesterday, I kind of just shut my laptop down, finished up my work for the day, and I started watching like YouTube videos after that, but it was just like gaming stuff. It wasn't like the conspiracy stuff, because I'm also like going through in my head like, holy shit, like all of this just sounds so true, you know? Part of me was telling myself, all right, this is what's happening. There is a deep state, and they do have certain objectives, and they are trying to control the mind of consciousness. And they're doing it in a way where the media can also, they own the media, so they can control the events. They can also control how the events are portrayed to the public, because obviously the media is like a main source of information for a lot of people. And in that Anti-Up song, Control the Media, the lyrics are control the media, control the mind. So if you got one, you got the other. But going back to my uncertainty, or my clinging to certainty of, oh yeah, this is what's it. Like, this is the globalist agenda, pretty much. Also, by doing that, I'm like implying that I am separate from the globalists, this conceptual group of people. And by separating myself from that, when I see a story that, like, let's say Alex Jones gets it right in terms of like that cyber attack yesterday, then I get that dopamine hit, or some chemical in my brain goes off saying, "Ooh, you were right. He was right. This is the story. This is it." Like, confirming in my head, like, this is what's happening. And I'm getting these chemical hits in my brain, saying like, keep paying attention. Keep this up. Keep following the story. Not realizing that it's taking away my attention from things that would bring me more fulfillment than just watching and following the story. But then I think about like Alex is just so deep into this stuff that he is invested in a story. And he says he believes in God and all that stuff in his videos, which I don't agree with, but I'm really working through it right now as to like why I was so interested. And I could like feel my brain like getting those nice euphoric hits whenever I tuned into that story. And I remember yesterday, like when I was going through the questioning process of holy shit, and the realization of this is another story, the conscious decision to switch my attention into the things that were more present in my life. Like, what did I do yesterday? I mean, I went on a drive. I drove back from my parents' house to my apartment. I could have had one of the RNC, Republic National Convention speeches on. I could have had Alex Jones on. He was on Tim Dillon recently, his podcast, so I could have had that episode on. But I just wanted to listen to music in my car, and that's what I did. Also, that drive back from my parents' house to my apartment last night was the last time that I make that kind of drive down to Philly, because I'm moving out of my apartment next week. So I wanted to um soak in that last drive as well, because it's just more present in my life. And not that anything is more or less present, um everything's always present, but it's my attention where it goes, that's where all my energy also follows suit. um and it's just going into things, really. That's really it. It's going into things without judgment. Like, I went into this globalist story, I could have judged myself. I could be doing it right now. Like, oh my God, Ben, you spent this whole week invested in this story and you weren't doing your podcast, you weren't doing music, you weren't doing quote unquote productive things. But I am literally just realizing getting invested in that story was content for me to podcast about for mind control. Um, Holy shit. I've said holy shit a lot in this episode. Because I've been having a lot of holy shit moments recently. Um so I lost my train of thought here. Mind control, influence. Yeah. So the media is controlling the minds of people who watch it, to people who aren't aware enough to, or they're just not at the stage where they're comfortable enough questioning the narrative. Because any story that you cling to isn't what's actually happening. You never know what's happening, but clinging to that story is cutting you off from different possibilities. And the whole sense of control is, the idea of control is just like false. There is no control. I've been speaking in the realm of control over this whole course of this episode, but I just frankly don't have a better way to put it. Maybe it could be influence and or force, I guess. Like, if the globalists wanted to force an agenda, this is how that force would be expressed, would be through sensationalization of the media and these crazy stories like mass shootings, assassinations, cyber attacks. They just want to do event after event after event. Because, like, you see, like, people that were so invested in the COVID story, and then they were so invested in the George Floyd story, and then they were invested in the Ukraine war, and they're just like doing all of, like, they're putting the Ukraine flag in their bios, like all the virtue signaling. What they're doing is they're getting invested from one story to another while possibly lacking awareness of what's going on in their own life, but they don't want to see what's going on in their own life, so they cling to these stories being spun up by the media, which kind of leaves them to be like a zombie, pretty much, with like nothing that interesting to talk about. I feel like I'm speaking with a lot of conviction in this episode, and part of me is like, whatever, just do that. And if that, like, if I'm coming off as abrasive or aggressive, like, this is just what I'm expressing right now. I'm kind of sick of like caveating everything I say and like being like, well, I could be wrong about this, but I don't want to say that anymore. I'm going to just say what's on my mind, stand on business. If someone gets pissed about it, hit me up, because that will only help me and help inform how I continue to speak about this topic or just anything in my life, because I know I'm not perfect. but there is no perfect. So I am perfect. But I guess I'm open to adaptation, as in like adapting how I express myself based on on the response of the environment. But yeah, I think I'll call it for now. I hope I touched on mind control. I feel like I didn't really, but that's really where the origin of this episode came from, because I felt like my mind was under control this week because I was just so invested into this story. But I kind of broke out of that yesterday, and today I just worked on music. And I'm recording this podcast, which music and this podcast mean a lot to me and are very fulfilling activities. So yeah, I'm gonna call it there. But oh, also one more thing, this may be the last episode that I record in this space as well. So there you go. This is it. You see my couch is already looking like that. I started taking it apart earlier. So things are changing in my life, and that's okay, because that's what life is. Change. All right, y'all. Have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next one.